Hey guys, so today we're going to be reading this book and it is titled The Vast Wonder of the World. This book is about Ernest Everest Just and he's a biologist. The reason I chose this particular book is because it talks about how Ernest faced some challenges before he became successful, but he didn't give up on himself. And that compares to real life. Sometimes you're going to face a couple challenges, a couple obstacles, but that don't mean you have to give up on yourself. You keep pushing. So I'm going to get right into it. Woodhouse, Massachusetts, 1911. At a twilight, a man lay on a dock luring marine worms with a lantern. He scooped them out with his net and placed them in a bucket. He couldn't wait to look at them more closely. He knew the ways of the sea, though he was not a fisherman. His father had built wharves, but he was not a dock worker. His name was Ernest Everest Just, and he was a scientist. Ernest was not like other scientists. He saw the whole when others only saw parts. He noticed details others failed to see. On the dock at dawn, he wrote poetry. Back in his laboratory, Ernest examined the marine worms under the microscope. He recorded and sketched their movements. How do their tiny egg cells create new life? He wondered. At a time when few expected a black man to do so well, Ernest became the world attorney on how life begins from an egg. From early on, Ernest wondered about the world around him. Born in Charleston, South Carolina, where rivers and oceans meet, Ernest watched how fishermen netted their catch. He learned how to read from his school teacher mother. After his father died when he was 4, he learned how hard life could be. To find better paying work, Ernest's mother moved their family from the city across the river to the country. Soon after, Ernest caught typhoid flu. He survived, but he lost his ability to read. But he cried alone, struggling to relearn it all. Then one day, a miracle. Ernest could read again. He read as often as he could, letting his imagination roam. Words came to life as a magical spirit. Ernest attended the school his mother created in the town she established. Ernest's mother never stopped working. Ernest never stopped observing, even while cooking, cleaning, and watching his younger brother and sister. He observed how hurricane damaged their school and how tougher segregation laws restricted African Americans. How his mother's remarriage changed his life at home. What Ernest really loved to observe, though, was nature. Surrounded by rivers and ocean, marsh, and mud, he found plenty to explore. At 13, Ernest left home to attend boarding school in Orangeburg, South Carolina. It was here he published his first poem. When he graduated, Ernest returned home hoping to begin in his mother's school, but a fire had destroyed it. Ernest left the segregated South on a steamship to continue his education up north. He dove into his new classes at a college preparatory school in New Hampshire. While he was away, his mother fell ill with tuberculosis and died. Ernest was stunned, full of grief and confusion. Ernest did the only thing he knew to do: return to his studies. He went on to Dartmouth College, working to pay his own way and to support his brothers and sisters back home. With less time to study, Ernest failed the class. He thought of his family and how they depended on him, and he thought of his mother's hard work and belief in education. He had to keep going. Ernest took a biology class and his life changed forever. In that class, he discovered the microscopic world of the cell. Scientists knew that the cell is the smallest building block of life, but many had only a basic understanding of how the different parts of the cell work together as a new life developed. Ernest wanted to unlock that mystery. And he did. Ernest became a biology professor at Howard University in Washington, D.C., teaching students to question and observe. Each summer, he traveled to the Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, to research and experiment. Out on the collecting boat, Ernest looked for sea urchins, sand dollars, starfish, marine worms. He then carefully transported them to the lab in a covered bucket so the beating sun would not damage them. Most scientists carelessly removed sea animals to study, but Ernest demonstrated that by observing living things in as natural an environment as possible, they could learn more. Ernest also taught the scientists how to thoroughly cleanse glassware and equipment for the most accurate experiments. And right here you can see Ernest in the net that he was using to catch those sea urchins, those sand dollars, those starfish, and the students all back here. Using a simple light microscope, Ernest examined the egg cells of all those sea animals. Night after night, day after day, while observing sand dollar eggs, Ernest noticed a wave of movement when a sperm contacted the egg. As slight as a shiver, it signaled an amazing discovery. The egg cell directed its own development through fertilization. This controversial ideal went against what most scientists thought at the time. It wasn't just the sperm creating changes. The cell surface and the layer right below it were just as important in generating new life. Ernest published his research findings in many scientific papers. He traveled to conferences to share his idea, and he won his first NAACP Spring Gun Medal. His reputation grew. Ernest's ideas caught the attention of scientists around the world. He was the first American research scientist invited to the world famous Kaiser Wilhelm Institution in Berlin, Germany. From then on, Ernest worked in Europe as often as long as he could, enjoying more warmth and respect than he ever felt in America. Despite his accomplishment, Ernest felt increasingly stifled in the United States. His family was not welcome with him in Massachusetts because of the color of their skin. He struggled for basic laboratory equipment at Howard. He didn't have the freedom white scientists had to choose where they worked. The time came when Ernest refused to tolerate the segregation any longer. He decided to move to France and become an independent researcher. Crossing the Atlantic, Ernest thought about the hundreds of students he'd introduced to science and how his fascination with cells began. He poured his memories and feelings into his work and completed a groundbreaking book. Through his careful observation and hard work, Ernest opened up the wonder of the universe to all of us through a tiny egg cell. And that is the end of the book. I really hope you guys enjoyed this book as much as I enjoyed it. And I really hope it motivated you as much as it motivated me to not give up on myself, no matter how many problems I face or challenges I face. As long as you push yourself towards success, eventually you will get there. Bye, guys.